Ah, the 1920s champagne, jazz, and unregulated capitalism. What a time to be alive. Or at least rich. You call it the Roaring Twenties. We called it the harvest. Everyone was making money, or at least pretending to. The stock market was the new religion, and I was one of its high priests. And trust me, the sermons were glorious. We had the perfect setup: cheap credit, blind optimism, and absolutely no rules. America was drunk on prosperity. Factories were booming, wages were rising, and every man in a fedora thought he was a financial genius. The newspapers said, "Stocks only go up." People believed it. They always do. Even your grandma was speculating mortgaging her house to buy more shares of General Motors. It was beautiful. A nation gambling on its own illusion of success. And we, the bankers, the brokers, the respectable men of finance, we supplied the illusion. We invented something called margin buying. It's simple. You put down a little money, and we lend you the rest to buy more stocks. If the price goes up, you're rich. If it goes down, well, then we own you. It was the ultimate con. People borrowed money. They didn't have to buy companies they didn't understand, hoping to profit from a future that would never come. But who was I to stop them? After all, I was the one selling the dream. Every day, the ticker tape rolled faster. Stock prices soared. And every night, the clubs were full of men boasting about their portfolios while women in pearls danced to the sound of future bankruptcy. It was the perfect party, and like every great party, it had to end with a crash. You see, by 1929, reality started asking uncomfortable questions. Factories were overproducing cars, radios, refrigerators, but wages had stopped rising. People couldn't actually buy all the things we were making. But who cares, right? The market didn't need logic. It ran on faith, and we were the high priests of faith. Then came October 24th, 1929, a Thursday, Black Thursday. The day belief died. The first cracks appeared when a few investors tried to cash out. Nothing major, just a little sell-off. But in markets built on confidence, even a whisper of doubt spreads like wildfire. Prices fell. People panicked. And when people panic, they sell. And when everyone sells, there's no one left to buy. Within hours, the market turned into a slaughterhouse. Phones rang off the hook, brokers screamed, investors fainted. Fortunes vanished faster than a bootlegger in a police raid. By the next week, it was over. Billions gone, dreams shattered, and the age of endless growth ended with a thud. Now, you might think we bankers were panicking too. Oh no, we don't panic. We prepare. See, we'd been quietly selling off our own holdings for months. We knew the music would stop. We just made sure we already had shares. The real fun started after the crash. Because once the market fell, everyone wanted their money back. But remember, most people didn't have real money. They had borrowed money. Margin calls went out. People had to sell everything to repay their loans. That selling made prices fall even further, a glorious spiral of self-destruction. Banks started failing. Ordinary folks lined up outside, desperate to withdraw their savings. They didn't realize the truth. The money was never really there. It had all been loaned out, gambled, and leveraged to oblivion. We'd built the entire economy on promises, and when people wanted cash, the promises burned. Between 1929 and 1933, over 9,000 banks collapsed. 9,000! Think about that. That's not a recession. That's an extinction event. Businesses failed. Factories shut down. Unemployment soared to 25%. Families lost their homes, their farms, their futures. Men stood in breadlines, and women sold whatever they could just to feed their children. Meanwhile, Those of us who'd cashed out early, we bought up foreclosed properties for pennies. We called it smart investing. You might call it vulturing. But hey, someone had to profit from the apocalypse. And through it all, we told people, don't worry, the market will recover soon. It always does. Eventually. Now, let's talk about the government. Oh, the beautiful incompetence of 1,930 seconds policy. You'd think, after the biggest market collapse in history, they'd step in to help. But no, they did the opposite. They raised interest rates, they cut spending, they tried to balance the budget. Imagine watching a house burn down and saying, don't use too much water, it's expensive. The president at the time, Herbert Hoover, said the economy would fix itself. And while he waited, people starved. We bankers? We waited too. But we waited in our country estates, sipping whiskey and reading about the breadlines in the papers. A tragedy, really, for them. By 1932, the country was broken. Confidence, that magical fuel of capitalism, had vanished. Stocks were down 90%. 9 out of $10 gone. Wall Street, once the symbol of progress, was now a graveyard. And that's when the people started asking dangerous questions. They asked, how could this happen? They asked, where did our money go? And we answered with a straight face. Global factors, economic cycles, market corrections. They nodded, pretending to understand. They always do. But then, something unexpected happened. A new man came to power, Franklin D. Roosevelt. He promised a new deal. We called it the Great Interference. FDR changed everything. He closed the banks, every last one, for a few days. He called it a bank holiday, cute name for a national panic attack. Then he made new rules. Deposit insurance, banking regulations, the SEC. He broke up our little games and told us we couldn't gamble with other people's money anymore. We cried, of course. We said it would kill innovation. It didn't. It just made us work harder to find new loopholes. We always find them. He also made jobs, programs, public works, infrastructure, social safety nets. People called it socialism. We called it bad for business. But secretly, we were relieved. Because even the most heartless banker knows you can't make money from people who have none. The Great Depression lasted more than a decade. It ended not with policy, but with war. World War II came along and solved everything, at least for the economy. Factories roared again. Men found work, and we bankers found something new to fund. Weapons. It's funny, isn't it? War is the best investment. Guaranteed demand. Endless government spending. No moral accounting required. By the time the war ended, America was rich again. The world had burned, but our balance sheets were glowing. And the people, they were just happy it was over. They called it the greatest generation. We called it the recovery. Now, what's the lesson here, my dear listener? What did the Great Depression teach us? Did we learn not to gamble with debt, not to inflate bubbles, not to worship markets as gods? Of course not. We learned how to do it better. We invented new instruments, new regulations to prevent crashes, and new ways to bypass them. We built a financial system even more complex, more fragile, and more dependent on confidence than before. And when it crashed again in 2008, well, you know that story. You watched it. And if you didn't, you will. Because history doesn't repeat, it compounds. The Great Depression wasn't a mistake. It was a prototype, a test run for the beautiful, predictable cycle of greed and ruin that defines modern finance. So when you read about men jumping out of windows on Wall Street in 1929, remember, they weren't the victims. They were the first casualties of a system designed to consume itself. And when you see old photos of breadlines and dust storms, remember, that's what happens when belief dies. Money is nothing more than collective faith. And once faith collapses, the numbers vanish. The Great Depression wasn't just an economic disaster. It was a revelation, a moment when humanity saw the truth about itself and decided to forget it. Because greed is patient. It waits for the next boom, the next illusion, the next generation of believers. And when it comes, and it always does, we'll be there again, in our suits, with our smiles, selling dreams at premium interest rates. Because the story never ends, it just changes names. The Great Depression brought to you by faith, fear, and the eternal confidence of your friendly neighborhood banker. Cheers.